Hello, welcome to the conversation here on News Central Television. This is the program where we bring you all the latest political news on the continent of Africa. I am Benga Aboroa.
And I'm Rita Omodia. There are a lot of stories making the rounds in the political space around the African continent. I mean, the AU president and Senegalese president Macky Sall is set to visit Russia and Ukraine soon. But on the conversation today, we will be looking at situations in Nigeria and Uganda. Now, in Nigeria, political parties entered the decision week where delegates will determine flag bearers for the 2023 general elections. And in Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni says his government will not intervene in the current economic situation amid a rising costs of living. I don't know if this was taken out of context, Benga, but this is the president of the country.
He actually said it, but then when you juxtapose countries, when you look at situations, in Tanzania, there's a subsidy. The government has intervened. They're helping them cushion the effects. Even in Kenya. But when you look back home in Nigeria, the president is not even saying anything about it. So it's one thing to talk about it and not do anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know which situation is better, whether the president should address it or not. Because yesterday, there were high expectations. 8 p.m. Kampala time, the president came out and said, look, there's nothing.
I'm not going to do anything concerning it.
Yes.
Anyways, in Nigeria, we have lots of situations going in, and Benga is going to take us right through it.
Okay, the All Progressive Congress, APC, Nigeria's ruling party, on Sunday postponed indefinitely the screening of its presidential aspirants, earlier slated for Monday, May the 23rd, though no reason was given for the alteration of its timetable. The party has been consistent in violating its timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general elections. In a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Felix Morka, said a new date will be announced in due course. Meanwhile, the opposition People's Democratic Party has also again postponed the date for its primaries for the 2023 general election. Violence, glitches, complaints and postponement trailed the PDP's House of Representatives and State Assembly primaries in some parts of the country yesterday.
Now, although the exercises were peaceful in some states, it was nevertheless postponed in Imo following unavailability of delegates lists occasioned by the non-assent to the amendment to Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Act by President Muhammadu Buhari, which has continued to generate mixed reactions. The lawmakers who described the possible withdrawal of the assent to the amendment bill by the president as an ambush ahead of the presidential primaries asked parties to go ahead and approve statutory delegates based on their respective constitutions. Now, join us live on the conversation to discuss this. We have Yusuf Temilola Nuruddin. He's the chairman, Nigerian Bar Association Young Lawyers Forum in Lagos, Nigeria. We also have joining us Tanko Yunusa. He is the national chairman, NCP and spokesperson, NC Front Abuja, Nigeria. Gentlemen, welcome to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, I'll start with you, Yunusa. We're looking at situations in the All Progressives Congress. Why is the APC consistently changing shadows? Are they unprepared? What exactly are the issues with the All Progressives Congress?
Well, there are greatly large interests that's happening within the APC. First of all, you look at the issue of the candidates, starting from the issue of the Electoral Act amendment, where the president did not show much interest ab initio. And then when he started showing interest, the different grouping of those who want to run for elections now started playing with the Electoral Act. And now the Electoral Act was played with so lately to a point that the whole issue of the Electoral Act was almost destroying the political situation. As it is today, there is no clear direction as regard to what Section 84, subsection 12, and Section 84, subsection 8 will be used to determine the fate of those who are going to run for election. And that creates the kind of situation in which you find ourselves where they are running from pillar to post in order to adjust the timetable to make sure that it meets with the provisions of the law. And that created the problem that they are having, that they lead to their instability as a party. And you know, the true situation is that once you are not truthful with your own situation, ab initio, it's just like a lie. When you lie, you'll be looking for another lie to cover the other lie that you've lied. And that is exactly what is happening with the APC. As of today, we have seen how they have already bundled themselves, even in the state leadership. For example, we have a situation in the Boeing state where somebody who is a member of the APC is trying to, the governor in particular, trying to model up the system, carrying another PDP candidate who is already a PDP state assembly speaker to run for election under the APC, while the person has not even left his position as a speaker, and he has not even resigned his position as a member of the PDP, but is going to run under APC. So you can see the great level of confusion that they are creating within their members and within the electorate, and then putting democracy in danger. As it is today, where we have people who are already clamoring and putting up a kind of trap for the legislator, and then the legislator is now putting up a trap for the executive. And that is what we saw in the issue of both the amendment on Electoral Act, subsection 8 for subsection 12, with the section 84, subsection 8. These are ploy within the party itself, building or digging a big hole for itself for a total destruction.
Thank you very much, Tanko. I'd like to bring in Yusuf here. Now, Yusuf, the APC is not alone in this postponement. The opposition People's Democratic Party has also again postponed the dates for its primaries for the 2023 general elections. How much of this do you put on the party? Who's responsible, and how much of responsibility does the refusal of the president to assent to the Electoral Act has contributed to this? What is the impact of this postponement on the party?
Actually, the current state of the political parties in Nigeria shows how vulnerable the Nigerian people are. And you could see that either of the political parties, they are trying to outsmart themselves as to trying to mirror who emerges the candidate of this party and who emerges of that party before they could make the choice of their own. What it means is that this party are not run on principles, and they don't have a clear vision of where they are heading to. And that's exactly the situation of this country. Now, these political parties, now either APC or PDP, they are one and the same. And the provisions of waiver in the constitution of the party makes it easy for any member of either of the party to jump boat to the other party. So it is not a mistake that they are trying to outsmart one another to see who takes the ticket of party A before party B can. But there is a trap to this, which is the deadline that is set by INEC. And section 150 of the Constitution is clear as to the provisions, and third schedule is also clear as to the power that INEC has as a regulating body for political party activities in Nigeria. That being said, the court has even sanctioned the power of INEC in many circumstances, to the extent that people who emerges through primaries that are not monitored by INEC are in the or are not duly sponsored by the political party. So the issue is that they are trying just to outsmart one another. They are not built on principles. They don't have core values. They don't have leadership recruitment mechanism. They don't have due process and procedure. And that is why we are not expecting anything that is different from either of the party. But it's quite unfortunate that every other political party have not been able to come together to build a solid force to push either of these two parties away. You can wait tomorrow and become a member of PDP. There is a provision of waiver, and you just mentioned the case of someone in Enugu State who is already in the political party and strike, because there is a provision as to waiver within 24 hours within which you can take part in the highest position in the country. Case in point, the case of President Jonathan. How could you, be calling on a devout PDP member just to come to APC to come and take ticket? Because there is a lacuna, and this, I think, is trying to play on the insensitivity of Nigerians. Because if we are sensitive enough, if the provision of law are duly upheld, you shouldn't have problem with this at all. But they know that even if they can get away with it now, they can always get to the court to play the games around. And there are lawyers that are willing to be their, to hate them in this. So it's a big problem that we have found ourselves. and we cannot get it right with either of these political parties.
Tanko, while we continue from where Yusuf stopped now, he talked about...
PDP wanted to know if
All right, Yusuf, just hold on that thought while I bring in Tanko now into this situation now, because we've talked about parties not run on principles, no clear direction, confusion, and even what the Constitution postulates for INEC. Now, INEC has consistently warned of the impact of shifting primaries as it would affect the overall timetable of the elections. Meanwhile, the parties have said that the time that has been given by INEC is not enough. Now, do you think INEC is likely to bow to the pressure from these parties?
I don't think the present chairman of INEC will bow to any pressure by any group or any political party. He has made it very, very clear that they have provided the timetable, and these issues have been on for quite a long time. It's not today. So nobody should pressure INEC to say they are going to shift the timetable for their own personal interest or group interest. It will not be possible because already most of the political parties have written INEC, and they have statutorily made it clear the day in which they are going to have their primaries and then provide their candidate list for INEC to scrutinize. So there's no shift in date. The only thing is that as risk at the moment now is the political party risking the possibility of them not even having candidates to run for election. That is the possibility of what we are seeing. Because quite honestly, some of the political parties who have run foul of the timing are trying to adjust the timing to suit their needs, and they failed already. So INEC is making sure that they hold firm onto their timetable to make sure that nobody plays around with their timetable. And what you will find, what you will see in the coming days is the possibility of many of them not having candidates, especially the situation that happened in Zamfara. You can recall that INEC held firm to its own ground and said, no, there was no primary based on our timetable of the APC that took place. So I'm sure this is an open ground for a lot of political parties to who are, I don't know, to be prepared, to be more prepared and hold firmly to their own timetable. Possibly, they might be the only candidate that will be running for elections. That is the chances that they have. So
if we happen, sorry to interrupt you, Tanko. If we happen to have a situation where the major political parties, the APC and the PDP, don't put their houses together, and they happen not to produce a presidential candidate before the INEC appointed deadline, what then happens?
No, you see, it is actually, with all due respect, it is the press that makes these two political parties and say they are the most popular political party. The most political party are the ones that are close to the people on the grassroots. And most of them are not the ones that you recognize. So those ones have already put in their timetable and they're working very hard. Like I can tell you on statutorily on ground now that the NMPP plus the labor movement joined together with the Labour Party, with the PRP, and other political parties, we are working on strongly on a strong alliance. And most of these people are already putting up their candidate and they are not shifting ground on their timetable. So possibly they may be the major political party that you people are looking for, because they are not shifting and they are not missing their timetable and they are making sure that their candidate emerge. So all of these political parties, the 18 political parties recognized by INEC, are equal in the eyes of the law. If you don't meet up with the provision of the INEC, you will not be on the ballot. And you can only vote for those who are already on the ballot, according to the provision by INEC. And with all due respect, the INEC chairman is not seeking for a new appointment. He is already the INEC chairman for the second time running. And I'm sure with the level of his intelligence and his academic prowess, he will not shift ground, because we want to give Nigerians the opportunity to choose the right leader based on the provision of law and order. And that has already been established by the Constitution, by the Electoral Act, by the constitution of the parties. So therefore, at the moment now, those who meet up the deadlines are the ones that INEC will present for election in 2023.
Now, Tanko, we have a situation where people have been calling for consensus candidates. Former Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives and APC presidential aspirant, Dimeji Bankole, says a modified consensus is a preferred method for the emergence of the party's presidential candidate. What exactly does this system of modified consensus entail? And how democratic is it not to have delegates vote and just, you know, under the name of consensus, we've come out with this candidate?
The rule of law is part of the pillars of democracy. And what it means is that against the law that was already been established and signed into law by Mr. President is the new Electoral Act. And the Electoral Act says that you have a room to either select your candidate by consensus one, direct primary, or indirect primary. Now, what does that mean? On consensus, it means that the political party have to sit within their level of hierarchy and choose the person that they feel can deliver to them the electorate votes. Two, when you go to an indirect primary simply means a combination of direct and indirect, meaning that the people on the grassroots will select certain people who will go and represent them at a delegate conference. So each delegate, like it is now for now, you have delegates from each of the local government, one by the provision made for the APC. They have a position of having the Electoral Act has said that they can choose their own delegate. They have possibly of having PDP has 810 delegates, while PDP has why APC has 2,340 delegates based on the provision. And so there's a confusion that is already reigning now.
Of their party's constitutions.
Come again?
Based on the provisions of their respective parties' constitutions.
Exactly. Now, the confusion now here is this. Section 84, subsection 12, and section 84, subsection 8 create a lot of confusion within the political parties. So some of them may run foul of the law and go ahead to have their primaries based on either of the sections, and then they will be found foul because as it is now, the court only recognized the provision of section 84, subsection 12. Mr. President has not signed the amended Electoral Act of section 84, subsection 8. So anybody that has done anything based on the other position will run foul of the law, and then their candidate deemed to be disqualified, as the case may be. So if they decide to go on consensus candidate, it will be safer for them based on the laws. Okay. If they decide to take the issue of indirect primary, it will be safer for them based on the laws. So for any political party that want to run away from indirect primary based on the issue of the Electoral Act, should either take the consensus position or the position of direct primary so that their candidate will be recognized by INEC. Because I can assure you, after most of these primaries, there will be a lot of litigation that will take place because a lot of the political parties, the so-called big political parties, will run foul of the position of the law. And that is a window of opportunity for other political parties who have been adjourned to be smaller political parties to have their candidate on the ballot and possibly been elected in the coming election. So caution is to be thrown to both APC and PDP. But it is an advantage for us in the opposition political party to put our acts together, which we are doing, to make sure that we get the right thing done based on the provision of the law. But when you talk about consensus is in the position of the law. It may not look moral or democratic in a certain way, but as long as the pillar of democracy is concerned, once it is agreed by the political parties and is done, put into the law and order, it is democratic in a way.
All right, thank you so much, Tanko. Yusuf, are you still with us? If you can hear me.
Very well.
Aside the issue of consensus now, which Tanko has alluded to the fact that it is constitutional within the law, there's also the issue of zoning. We know that some of the Southeast members have said, rather urged that the APC party should actually zone its ticket to the Southeast so as to bring about unity in the country. Do you believe that will bring about unity in the country?
What would bring about unity in the country is that the provision of the Constitution should be duly adhered to by those in government. Is that corruption should be limited to the minimum, to the barest minimum. Is that the number of people who are hungry should be reduced to barest minimum. Is the fact that the university should be well funded, and so on and so forth. These are issues of governance. Political parties and their activities always come at a time, and they will come and go, and Nigeria will remain. So it shouldn't be a yardstick for us to measure whether or not the country will remain the same. However, it is not out of place to allow people from every part of the country to take part in the governance of Nigeria, most especially the topmost seats. Every other seat has been rotated around the country. I understand that in the Nigerian Senate, we have Adolphus Wabara, Payazayum, they have led Senate, and because they are within people, they could not unilaterally foist their so-called, because that's the perception about people who come from Southeast, that they have other ambition that is different from that of the people, which I do not believe. I've had them as friends, I've had them as colleagues, and there is nothing so intricate about being an Igbo man. It's just that they are being street smart and they can organize themselves. And I think what works for them most times is that they believe so much in their willpower. So whoever is afraid of the Igbo presidency should come out in public and say it, because we are a country that is made up of different tribes, and we have 3 major tribes. So if other tribes have had a fair share of the cherry, I think there is nothing that is stopping the Southeast. I so much believe that any of the candidates from either of the party from the Southeast has better ideas than those who think their own oligarchy should continue to reign. The zoning is not in the party's constitution, it's not in the Nigerian constitution, but it can be inferred from the preamble to the constitution to say that everybody should be treated equitably. And it is in chapter 2 of the constitution, stating about socio-political objective of the country, to foster unity, and so on and so on. So these are things that I think we should identify. But that chapter of the constitution is not justiciable, meaning that even if it is violated, you can't go to court to substantiate it, like other sections of the constitution. So I think it is reasonable, it is going to be equitable, and it is going to move Nigeria forward if that Igbophobia is taken out of the way.
Okay, thank you very much, Yusuf. My producers are telling me that we're fast running out of time. So I'd like to bring in Tanko in less than a minute, please. The opposition PDP has alleged that the delay by President Buhari to sign the amendment made to the Electoral Act to allow statutory delegates to vote in primaries is part of a ploy to derail the electoral process and achieve illegal tenure elongation. Now, the million-dollar question is this: why has the president not signed this bill?
Now, quickly, it will be very, very unfair to accuse Mr. President of trying to create a kind of a ploy. The question is that this bill was presented at the National Assembly. The National Assembly combined have both the PDP and the APC. All of them were in that assembly. They were the one that took the decision. They didn't do diligence on the matter. And when we were at the opposition and the civil society, we've been bringing a lot of caution because we were not interested in anything that would create a lacuna in the system. We were interested in a fair game, free and fair opportunity for everybody to run for election. But while they were in the assembly, they could not agree. They were already playing politics, playing pawns with the Nigerian people. And so the between now became a problem for both political parties. If you ask me, who is PDP, who is APC, are they not both together the same six-mean twins? So the decision of them to make they made the mistake right from there at the National Assembly. They ought to have dealt with this particular issue. In fact, to tell you the truth, the issue of delegate conference shouldn't have been anything that should have been mentioned in the Electoral Act. It should have been left open for the political party to deal with. That wouldn't have created problem, and that wouldn't have given Mr. President the opportunity to decide whether he's going to play pawn with himself and his political party.
Thank you.
Therefore, they should blame themselves for the inability to do the right thing at the right time.
All right, thank you so much, Tanko Yunusa. We could go on and on this issue of Nigeria's politics, especially as 2023 is around the corner. Thank you so much, Tanko Yunusa, and of course, Yusuf Timilola. Thank you for joining us on the conversation at this time.
Thank you.
God bless Nigeria.
All right, now, so we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be moving to Uganda for political stories. Do stay tuned.